Friends, my channel name is Indian Epic History. Search this channel name on YouTube and select playlist option for my all videos like Ramayana, Mahabharat, Puran. Otherwise, click the channel name below the video, then go to the playlist. This is Buri Critical Mahabharat book, section 17, Subhadraharan Parva, chapter 211. Vishnupada said, O king, after a few days, a great festival of the Vrishnis and the Andhakas was held on Mount Revataka. Press the red subscribe option and press the bell icon for my latest video updates. The warriors gave away gifts to thousands of Brahmanas in that festival of the Voyagers, Vrishnis and Andhakas on that mountain. O king, the region all around the mountain was adorned with palaces full of jewels. Every tree there was decorated with lamps. Together all the musicians played their musical instruments. The dancers danced and the singers sang songs. All the immensely energetic Vrishni youth were adorned with ornaments as they rode on their colorful and golden chariots. Hundreds and thousands of citizens went there with their wives, some on excellent chariots and others on foot. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, with Revati, the Lord Haldhara means Balram. Revati was Balram's wife and was intoxicated and was followed by many Gandharvas. The powerful Ugrasena, king of the Vrishnis, Ugrasena means father of Krishna and Balram, grandfather, was there with his 1000 wives and was praised by the musicians. Rukmini's son and Samba, always invincible in battle, were intoxicated and wore divine garlands and garments, sporting themselves like the gods. Akrura, Sarana, Gada, Bhanu, Viduratha, Nishatha, Charudeshna, Prithu, Biprithu, Satyaka, Satyaki, Bhangakara, Suhachara, Hardikya, Kritavarma and others not mentioned were there, surrounded by their respective wives and musicians. They then adorned Revataka at the time of the festival. While the greatly wonderful commotion was going on, Vasudeva roamed around Partha with him. As they wandered, they saw Vasudeva's beautiful daughter Vadra, ornamented and with her friends. On seeing her, Arjuna was struck by the god of love, means Kamadev, and Krishna noticed the sign that Partha's mind was intently riveted on her, means Subhadra, or descendant of the Bharata lineage. The one with the eyes of a lotus smilingly spoke these words. How is it that the mind of one who lives in the forest is agitated by desire? O Partha, she is my sister and from the same womb as Sharana. If your mind is set on her, I can speak to my father myself. Or Arjuna replied, she is Vasudeva's daughter and Vasudeva's sister. Vasudev means Krishna's father and Vasudev means Krishna. She is beautiful. How can I not be captivated? If this daughter of the Vrishni lineage, your sister, becomes my wife, I must certainly have performed only good deeds. O Janardana, tell me how I can obtain her. I will do everything that any man can. Vasudeva said, O bull among men, a Swayambara is the form of marriage for Kshatriyas, O Partha, but that is uncertain if one doesn't know that inclination. Those who are learned in the ways of Dharma say that for Kshatriyas who are warriors, abduction for marriage is permissible. O Arjuna, therefore abduct my beautiful sister, who knows what she might do in a Swayambara. O king, having thus decided on the course of action, Arjuna and Krishna then sent of swift men as messengers to inform Dharmaraja in Indraprastha of everything. On hearing, the mighty armed Pandava agreed. Next chapter, Vishampayana said, O Janmejaya, Dhananjaya learned that the lady had gone to Revataka. Having learned of the sanction and after obtaining Vasudeva's permission, the bull of the birth lineage discussed and got Krishna's sanction about the course of action. He mounted a golden chariot that had been constructed in the proper fashion. It was yoked with Sandhya and Sugriva and decorated with nets of small bells. Its roar was like that of a thundering cloud, and it was shocked with every weapons. Its radiance was like the blazing fire, and it struck terror in the hearts of enemies. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, prepared armored with a sword and with guards on his elbows and fingers, he set out as if on a hunt. Having worshipped Revata, king of the mountains, and obtained the blessings of the gods and all the Brahmanas, Subhadra circumambulated the mountain and set out for Dwarka. Kunti's son rushed at her and forced her onto his chariot, abducting the sweet smiling one. That tiger among men set out for his own city on his chariot as if on air. On seeing Subhadra thus carried away, all the armed soldiers who were with her raised an alarm and dashed towards the city of Dwarka. They arrived at the assembly hall named Sudharma and recounted the story of Partha's valor to the presiding officer. On hearing this, the presiding officer sounded his war drum on that was ornamented with gold and had a terrible roar. On hearing that sound, the Bhojas, Brishnis, and Andakas then gave up their food and drink and come to the assembly hall. Those tiger among men, the Vrishni and Andaka Maharathas, ascended their thrones decorated with gold, covered with excellent cushions, and adorned with gems and corals, with the radiance of blazing fires like 100 fires on their sacrificial altars. When they were seated like an assembly of gods, the presiding officer and his companions told them about Jishnu's conduct, means Arjuna's conduct. On hearing this, the warriors among the Vrishnis, their eyes red with drinking, were intolerant of Partha and arrogantly stood up. Quickly yoke the chariots, bring out lances, fetch the best bows and large armor. Some asked their charioteers to yoke their chariots, others themselves fetched their horses harnessed in gold. As the chariot armor and flag were brought, there was then a tumultuous uproar from those warriors among men. At that time, Vanamali, who was as tall as Mount Kailasha, who was intoxicated with wine and was dressed in blue, spoke, O you who are not wise, what are you doing when Janardana is quiet? Without knowing what his thoughts are, why are you roaring in anger? Let the immensely wise one say what he intends to do. Whatever he proposes should be unhesitatingly done. On hearing Halayuda's word, Halayud means Balram, which deserved to be accepted, all of them exclaimed, Excellent, and fell silent. Silence having been restored through the wise Baladeva's calm words, all of them again took their seats in the assembly hall. Then Kamapalla spoke to Vasudeva, the scourger of enemies, O Janardana, why are you seated here and looking on without a word? O Achyuta, it was for your sake that we honored Arjuna. It now seems that evil-minded one, the defiler of his lineage did not deserve the homage and honor. Will any man who regards himself as having been born in a good lineage break the plate that he has eaten from? Even if one has wished for such an alliance, should a supplicant who desires happiness have the courage to act thus, forgetting earlier favors by insulting us and disregarding Keshava, he was forcibly abducted Subhadra, commending his own death. O Govinda, like a serpent that has been trodden on, how can I bear him who has placed his feet on my head? Today I will alone right the earth of all Kauravas. I cannot tolerate this transgression of Arjuna's. At this, all the assembled warriors, Vrishnis and Andhakas applauded the thundering one whose voice was like the clouds and a war drum. Next chapter, next section 18, Harana Harika Parva. Vaishampayana said, when all the Vrishnis began to repeat words of this nature, Vasudeva uttered words that were full of dharma and artha. Gudakesha means Arjuna has not brought dishonor to our lineage through his actions. There is no doubt that he has increased it. Partha knows that the Shatavatas never lust after riches. The Pandava also knows that the result of a Swayamvara are uncertain. Who can contemplate the giving away of a daughter as if she were an animal? Which man on earth would like to sell his daughter? I think Kunti's son saw these blemishes in the other methods. Therefore, in accordance with Dharma, the Pandava abducted the lady. The alliance is appropriate. Subhadra is illustrious. Partha is equally so. Hence, he abducted her by force. Who will not want Arjuna? He is born in a lineage of the Bharata and the great soul Shantanu. He is the son of Kunti Bhoja's daughter. In all the worlds, with their Indras and Rudras, I do not see anyone who can vanquish Partha in valor with that chariot to which my horses have now been yoked. As a warrior, Partha is swift in the use of weapons. Who is his equal? Go to Dhananjaya with a happy mind. Pacify him with extremely gentle words and make him come back. That is my view. If Partha goes to his city after forcibly vanquishing us, our fame will be destroyed. But there is no defeat in appeasement. O ruler of men, on hearing Vasudeva's word, they acted accordingly. Restrained by them, Arjuna returned and married Subhadra. Kunti's son lived there for a year, and the Lord spent the last part of his period in Pushkara. After the 12 years were over, he went to Khandaprastha. He went to the king and humbly paid his respects. Partha worshipped the Brahmanas and went to Draupadi. Then, out of love, Draupadi told Kuru's descendant, O Kunti's son, go to the daughters of Shatavatas. A second load always loosens the first tie. However strong, Krishna thus lamented in many ways. Dhananjaya pacified her a lot and asked for forgiveness. He quickly went to Subhadra, who was dressed in red silk. Partha sent her away to dress in garments worn by a cow-haired lady. But the illustrious one looked beautiful even in that attire. Arriving in the best of houses, the famous and beautiful Bhadra, wife of a warrior with copper red eyes, paid homage to Partha. Then, with a face as radiant as the full moon, Bhadra quickly went and paid homage to Draupadi, saying, I am your maid. Then Krishna arose and embraced Madhava's sister and lovingly said, let your husband not have a rival. With a happy heart, Bhadra replied, may it be that way. O Janmejaya, the Maharatha Pandavas were then happy in their hearts. Kunti was also extremely delighted, having heard that Arjuna, best of the Pandavas, had reached Indraprastha, supreme among cities. The pure souled Pandrikaksha Madhava went there with Rama and all the other warriors and Maharathas from among the Vrishnis and the Andhakas. Kshatri's square of enemies went with a large army surrounded by hundreds of soldiers and his brothers and sons. The immensely famous and wise Akrura, lord of donations of arms, vanquisher of enemies, and general of the Vrishni warriors, went there. So did the immensely energetic Anadrishti and the immensely famous Uddhava, the greatly intelligent and famous disciple of Brihaspati himself, Satyaka, Satyaki, the Shadvarna, Kritavarna, Pradyumna, Samba, Nishata, Shanku, and Valerius Charudeshna, Jilli, Biprithu, mighty armed, Sharana, and Gada, supreme among those who are learned. These and many other Vishnus, Bhojas, and Andakas went to Khandaprastha carrying many gifts with them. On hearing that Madhava had come, King Yudhishthira sent the twins, Nakul Sadev, to receive Krishna. Having been received by them, the prosperous Vrishni entered Khandaprastha, which was adorned with flags and pennants. The roads were cleaned and sprinkled with water and decorated with many flowers, cool sandalwood, and the fragrance of others. Pure perfumes and the burning of aloe made every part of the city fragrant. The entire city was crowded with merchants and with people who had cleansed themselves. The mighty armed Keshava, supreme among men, arrived with Rama, means Parshurama, surrounded by Vrishnis, Andakas, and the great Bhojas. He was worshipped by thousands of citizens and Brahmanas. He then entered the king's palace, which was like Purandara's abode. Yudhishthira welcomed Rama in the prescribed fashion. He kissed Keshava on the head and embraced him in his arms. Extremely pleased, Krishna humbly paid homage and duly paid his respect to Bhima, tiger among men. In accordance with the prescribed rites, Dharmaraja Yudhishthira welcomed the best of the Vrishnis and the Andakas. He worshipped some as his superiors. He greeted some as his equals. He welcomed some others with affection and was paid homage to by others. Then the immensely famous Vasudeva presented the best of riches to the groom's party as a dowry to Subhadra from her relatives 1,000 golden chariots with nets of bells, each yoked to 4 horses and driven by skilled charioteers. From the land of Mathura, Krishna gave 1,000 auspiciously colored cows that were productive in yielding milk. As a sign of friendship, Janardana gave 1,000 horses and were white like the color of moonbeams and were adorned with gold. 2 times 500 moles white with black manes that were trained and had the speed of the wind. 1,000 young and fair women who were well dressed and had excellent complexions. Each wore a necklace of 100 gold pieces, was adorned with ornaments, and was skilled in bathing and every kind of service. The lotus-eyed Janardana gave 10 men loads of gold, both worked and unworked, and with the radiance of the fire from the land of Dasharha. As a mark of respect, the lover of valor, Rama, gave Partha 1,000 supreme elephants en route. These were as large as mountain peaks and had secretions flowing from their bodies in 3 streams. They never narrated in battle and were adorned with well carved golden bells and were supremely saddled. Haldara was happy and pleased with the alliance. The large quantity of gems and riches looked like a ocean. The garments and blankets were like the foam, the large elephants were like large crocodile, and the flags were like aquatic plants. The large river entered into the ocean of the Pandus and filled it up to the brim, to the great and despondency of their enemies. Dharmaraja Yudhishthira accepted all of it and paid homage to the Vrishni and Andhaka Maharathas. Then the assembled great souled ones, the best of the Kuru, Vrishni, and Andhaka lineage, spent their time in pleasure, as do men of good deeds in the abode of the immortals. The Kurus and the Vrishnis assumed themselves as they wished, with the loud clapping of hands and drinking bowls, having spent many days in pleasure and being worshipped by the Kurus, the brave ones again returned to the city of Dwaravati with Rama at their forefront. The Maratha from the Vrishni and the Andhaka lineage departed with the pure jewels given to them by the best of the Kurus or descendant of the Bharata lineage, but the great soul Vasudeva remained with Arjuna in the beautiful city of Indraprastha, Shakraprastra. He roamed with Partha along the banks of the Yamuna. Then Keshava's beloved sister Subhadra gave birth to a radiant Saubhadra, like Ptolemy gave birth to Jayanta. He was long armed, of great strength, with the eyes of a bull and a vanquisher of enemies. Subhadra's brave son, a bull among men, was known as Abhimanyu. Arjuna's son, a bull among men, was thus known because he was extremely wrathful. Dhananjaya gave birth to that Atiratha from a Shatavata lady, like fire is produced at a sacrifice from the womb of a cemetery. At the birth, Kunti's son, the mighty armed Yudhishthira, donated 10,000 cows and several thousand coins to Brahmanas. From his childhood, he became a favorite of Vasudeva's and was like a moon to all his fathers and the subjects. From his birth onwards, Krishna performed all the auspicious rites. The child began to grow like the moon in the bright half of the lunar month. The vanquisher of enemies learned all the Vedas from Arjuna with the 4 divisions and 10 branches and the art of archery, everything known to man and God. The extremely powerful one became skilled in the science of all weapons. He learned all the special acts of handling weapons in acquiescence, use, and in circular motions. Dhananjaya was pleased that his son Subhadra became his equal. He could bear everything from his enemies. He was blessed with all the auspicious marks. He was invincible in battle and had the soldiers of a bull. His wide mouth was like that of a serpent. The mighty archer was as proud as a lion. His valor was like that of a mad elephant. His voice was like thunderous clouds. His face was like that of the full moon. He was Krishna's equal in valor, energy, beauty, and form. Vibhutsu means Arjuna saw in his son Maghavan himself. The auspicious Panchali also obtained 5 sons through her 5 husbands. They were brave and bright, like 5 mountains. Pratibindya was born from Yudhishthira, Sutsama from Vrikodara, Sutakarma from Arjuna, Satanika from Nakula, and Shutrasena from Sadeva. These are Draupadi's sons. They were 5 Marathas. Panchali gave birth to 5 heroes, like Aditi gave birth to the Adityas. The Brahmanas told Yudhishthira that according to the secret text, Pratibindya would be like the Vindhya mountains in knowledge of the weapons of his enemies, and so he should be thus named the great archer Sutsoma, with energy equal to that of the sun and the moon, was born as a son from Bhimsena after he had performed 1000 Soma sacrifices. Sutakarma was born as a son after hearing of the great deeds performed by Kriti, means Arjuna. Kaurava Nakula, descendant of the Kuru lineage, named his son who would extend his fame after a royal sage Satanika. Then Krishna gave birth to Sadeva's son when the nakshatra Vainidevya, Krishna means Draupadi, was in the ascendant. He was therefore known as Shrutasena. Draupadi's famous sons were born at intervals of 1 year. O Lord of Kings, they were devoted to each other's welfare, O best of the Bharata lineage, as is prescribed from the time of birth. Their rituals of birth tonsure and wearing of the sacred thread were performed by Dhaumya. After having studied the Vedas, these observers of rigid vows learned the use of all weapons, human and divine, from Arjuna. O tiger among kings, followed by mighty and broad chested sons who were like those born from the wombs of the gods, the Pandavas were extremely delighted. Next, section 19, Khandabda Parva. Khanda forest fire. Vishnupada said, on the orders of King Dhritarashtra and those of Santanu's son, they lived in Indraprastha and brought under their rule many kings. All the people lived happily in Dharmaraja's refuge, like souls in bodies that have auspicious marks and perform deeds that bull among Bharatas served Dharma, Artha and Kama equally, looking upon the three as relatives like one's own self. It was as if Dharma, Artha and Kama had become personified on earth, and with them the king became like a fourth. The Vedas found a great student, the sacrifices a great performer, and the caste as a pure protector. In this ruler of man, Lakshmi was established. Intelligence was revered. Dharma found a relative everywhere and extended on earth. With his four brothers, the king shone with a radiance like a great sacrifice ascended by the four Vedas. Dhaumya and other Brahmanas surrounded him and paid homage like the chief immortals, each equal to Brihaspati, worshippers of Prajapati. In the eyes of the hearts of the subjects, owing to their great affection, Dharmaraja was equal to the unblemished full moon. The subjects didn't love him only because he was their king. They also bore him affection because of his deeds. Pritha's intelligent son was always sweet in speech. He never uttered words that were improper, untrue, malicious, or unpleasant. The immensely energetic and supreme one of the Bharata lineage found pleasure in devoting himself to the welfare of all the worlds, treating everyone like his own self. Through their great energy, all the Pandavas lived happily, devoted of distress, pacified all the kings. After a few days, Vivutsu, Arjuna told Krishna, O Krishna, warm days are here. Let us go towards the Yamuna. O Madhusudana, O Janardana, if you agree, let us sport there with our friends and return in the evening. Vasudeva replied, O Kunti's son, O Pritha's son, that is my wish too. As long as we desire, let us sport with our friends in the water. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, after consulting and obtaining Dharmaraja's permission, Partha, Govinda and their friends set out. They reached that beautiful pleasure ground, dotted with many trees and adorned with many tall houses like Purandara's abode. Flavored and expensive food and drinks were spread out, and many perfumed garlands were adorned for Vashnya and Partha. They entered the place that was stocked with many pure and brilliant gems. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, all of them began to sport as they pleased. Some women sported in the woods, other in the water, and some others in the houses. Wherever it pleased Krishna and Partha, in great intoxication, Draupadi and Subhadra gave away expensive garments and ornaments to the women. Some danced in great delight, others shouted. Some of the women laughed, others drank the excellent wine. Some began to weep, others fought among themselves. Some whispered secrets to each other and jested. The woods became the scene of prosperity, filled all around with the beautiful music and flutes, venas, and drums. While this was going on, the descendant of the Kuru and Dasharatha went to a beautiful region that was not far off. O king, having gone there, the two great soul Krishnas, two Krishna means Arjuna and Vasudeva, both are Krishna, conqueror of enemy cities, seated themselves on very expensive seats. Partha and Madhava assumed themselves by recounting to each other the many deeds of valor and love they had performed earlier when Vasudeva and Dhananjaya were thus happily seated together like the two Ashwins in heaven. A Brahmana arrived. He was like a tall shala tree, and his complexion was like heated gold. His beard was reddish brown, and his limbs were well proportioned. His hair was matted, and his attire was dark. He was radiant like the young sun, and his eyes were like lotus leaves. His complexion was tawny and he blazed with energy. On seeing that supreme among Brahmanas approach, the two Krishnas, Arjuna and Vasudeva, quickly stood up. Vishwampana said, he then spoke to Arjuna and Vasudeva of the Satvata lineage, you two who are now so near the Khandava tract are supreme in the world. I am a voracious Brahmana who always eats limited quantities. O descendant of the Vrishni and Partha, I beg you, give me enough food to satisfy myself. Having been thus addressed, Krishna and Pandava told him, tell us what kind of food will satisfy you. We will try to bring it for you. Having been thus addressed, the illustrious Brahmana then told the warriors who had asked him about the king about the kind of food that should be prepared for him. I do not eat ordinary food, know me to be the fire. Therefore, seek to bring me the food that is appropriate for me. This Khandava tract is always protected by Indra, so I am unable to burn it down because that great souled one protects it. His friend, the Naga Takshaka, lives there with his kin and is protected by the welder of the Vajra, and many other beings are also incidentally protected. Through I always wish to burn it down, I cannot do so because of Shakra's energy. Whenever he sees me ablaze, he pours down floods of rain from the clouds. Through I earnestly wish to consume it, I cannot thus burn it down. Since the two of you are skilled in the use of arms, I have now come to you for help. I will now be able to burn Khandava down, and that is the food I desire for you. You know about supreme weapons, restrain the shore on all sides, restrain all the creatures. On hearing these words, Bibhasu told the fire who wished to burn down Khandava despite being restrained by Shatakratu. I have many excellent and divine weapons with which I am capable of fighting many wielders of the Vajra, O illustrious one, but I do not possess a bow that can bear the strength of my arms and withstand the strength and speed I bring to battle. Because of my speed, I need arrows that are inexhaustible. My chariot cannot bear all the arrows that I desire. I want divine horses and are white and as swift as the wind, and a chariot that will shine like the sun in its energy and will thunder like the clouds. Nor does Krishna possess a weapon that can equal in valor of Madhava requires one to kill the Nagas and demons in battle. O illustrious one, tell us the means so that we may be successful and are able to restrain Indra from raining down on his extensive forest. O fire, we are ready to act according to your prowess, O illustrious one, but you should give us the means that can support us. Vishnupada said, having been thus addressed, the illustrious fire, with the smoke as his banner, remembered Varuna, the lord of the worlds, Aditi's son, and the god who lives in the water and is the lord of the waters. Knowing that he had been remembered, he too appeared before the fire. The smoke crested on one paid homage to the lord of the waters. The fourth, Lokapala, the protector of the great god, and said quickly, give me the bow, the two quivers, and the chariot bearing the flag of a monkey that were obtained from King Soma. Partha will accomplished a great task with Gandiva and Vasudeva with the Chakra, means Sudarshan Chakra. For that reason, let those be given to them. Varuna told the fire, I will give them. Then he gave him that extraordinary gems of a bow, endowed with great valor and capable of extending fame and deeds. It was incapable of being hurt by any weapon, but could destroy all weapons. It was the chief of all weapons and was the destroyer of enemy armies. It alone was equal to 100,000 and was the extender of kingdoms. It was radiant, smooth, and unblemished everywhere, and adorned with many colors. For an eternity it had been worshipped by the gods, the Danavas, and the Gandharvas. He also gave him two inexhaustible quivers and a chariot with divine horses, with a monkey on the banner. The horses were silvery and were from the land of the Gandharvas. They were in golden harnesses, as swift as the wind or the mind, and resembled white clouds. Every weapon was laden onto the chariot, and it was incapable of being vanquished by the gods or the Danavas. It was radiant with a thunderous roar and was enchanting to all beings through his ascetic powers. It was created by Prajapati Bhamana, the Lord of the worlds. Its form was like that of the sun and could not be guessed at. It was on this that Lord Soma had ascended when he vanquished the Danavas. It was radiant in its beauty and was gigantic like an elephant or a cloud. On this supreme of chariots was mounted an excellent flagpole, golden and resplendent like Shakra's weapon. On the flagpole was a divine monkey marked with the signs of the lion and the tiger. It seems it seemed to roar out from that adorned perch. There were many other great beings on that flag, and their roars made enemy soldiers lose their senses. Then Partha circumambulated that supreme chariot adorned with many pennants. He worshipped all the gods and attired in armor with guards for his fingers and wrist, and with a sword slung against his chest ascended it. Like a virtuous man on a Vimana, Arjuna was extremely delighted when he grasped the Gandiva, the divine and supreme of bows, created by Brahma in ancient times, paying his homage to the fire. The valorous one grasped the bow with great force and strung it. When the powerful Pandava strung the bow, the heart of those who heard the sound trembled. Having obtained the chariot, the bow, and the two inexhaustible quivers, Kaunteya brought himself to be powerful and accomplished for the task. Then the fire gave Krishna the chakra with a vajra at its center. On receiving this fiery and desirable weapon, he too became accomplished. The fire said, O Madhusudana, there is no doubt that with these weapons you will be victorious in battle, even over those who are not human. It is certain that in the destruction of great enemies, humans, gods, Rakshasas, Pisachas, Daityas, Nagas, you will be the superior in battle. O Madhava, whenever you hurl it at an enemy in the course of battle, it will irresistibly kill and return again to your hand. The illustrious Varuna also gave Hari a terrible club named Komodiki, the destroyer of the Daityas, with the roar of the thunder. The delighted Krishna and Arjuna told the fire, O illustrious one, we are now armed with weapons and now they are used. We are mounted on chariots with flags. We are eager to fight all the gods and demons together. Not to speak of a single wielder of the Vajra who wished to fight for the sake of a Naga. Arjuna said of fire, when the powerful Vashnaya released the chakra in battle, there is nothing in the three worlds that Janardana cannot vanquish. Having obtained the bow Gandiva and these two inexhaustible quivers, I am also capable of vanquishing the worlds in battle. O Lord, blaze as you wish and circle this great forest. We are capable of helping you in your task, having been thus addressed by Dashara and Arjuna, the illustrious one, assumed his energetic form and began to consume the forest. He surrounded it from all sides with his seven flames, as terrible as the fire and the end of a yuga. He began to angrily consume Khandava, or bull among the Bharata lineage. When he surrounded the forest from all sides, he roared like the clouds and burned all the beings or descended of the Bharata lineage. The blazing forest looked like Meru, king of the mountains, golden in its great radiance. Vesampana said, "Those two tigers among men stationed themselves on their chariots on both sides of the forest, and a great slaughter of all beings began in every direction. Wherever they saw a creature that dwelled in Khandava trying to escape, those two heroes pursued it. No hole could be seen in the swift power of the chariots. Those two excellent chariots and the two charioteers seemed to be as one. As Khandava blazed, thousands of beings leapt in the 10 directions, uttering frightened yells. Some were burned in one spot, some were scorched, the eyes burnt out for some withered away, some lost their minds and scattered, some clung to their sons, others to their fathers and mothers. Out of affection, they were unable to let go and perished. Others rose up in their thousands, their forms distorted, but they were whirled around and again flung into the fire. Some rolled on the ground, their wings, eyes, and feet scorched. They were seen there, their bodies destroyed, or descended of the Bharata lineage. All the water bodies began to boil in their thousand in turtles, and the fishes were seen dead. In that destruction of beings in the forest, the burning bodies seemed like flaming torches. Those that ascended upwards were cut to pieces by Partha's arrows, as he laughingly flung them back into the flames, uttering loud wails, their bodies pierced everywhere by arrows from above. They were swiftly flung back again into the fire, pierced by arrow and in flames. The sounds made by the forest dwellers were heard like the ocean when it was churned. The huge flames of the delighted fire rose up into the sky and created great consternation, consternation among the dwellers of heaven. They sought refuge with the thousand-eyed Purandara, the king of the gods. The gods said, O Lord of the immortals, why is the fire burning all these people? Is it the case that the end of the worlds has arrived? Having heard this, the slayer of Vritra himself looked down. Haribahana set out to save Khandava, covering the sky with a great masses of clouds in many forms. The Lord of the gods and the wielder of the Vajra began to pour down rain. The thousand-eyed and showered down rain on the fire raging in Khandava from hundreds and thousands of clouds. In shafts as thick as the axles, but the heat of the fire dried up these showers before they reached. Not a single one reached the fire. Then the slayer of Namuchi became very angry with the fire. He again started to rain down in many torrents. Then the flames fought with those showers, mingled with smoke and lightning, with the sound of the roar. That forest became terrible to look at. Vasampana said, summoning his splendid weapons, Pandava Bibhasu repulsed the shower of rain with a shower of arrows. Pandava covered every side of Khandava with his arrows and drove away that rain for the forest. When the sky was covered with Sabyasachi's arrows, not a single being could escape from there. Takshaka, the immensely powerful king of the serpents, wasn't in the flaming forest then. He had gone to Kurukshetra, but Takshaka's powerful son Ashwashena was there. He made great efforts to escape from the fire. However, oppressed by Kunti's arrows, he did not succeed in getting out, but his mother, daughter of the serpents, tried to save him. She first swallowed his head, then she began to swallow his tail, and in her haste to save her son, the serpent lady rose up. When Pandavas saw this, he sliced off her head with a sharp arrow. The Lord of the gods saw this. Acting as Balor, the wielder of the Vajra, unleashed a shower of rain on Pandava, and when this dazed him, Ashwasena instantly escaped. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, on seeing this terrible power of Maya and having been deprived by the serpent, he cut down all the serpents into 2 and 3 pieces. Angrily, Vibhusu cursed the serpent. Arjuna cursed the serpent that had escaped, and so did the fire, and Vasudeva showed the effect that he would never attain fame. Then Jisnu, means Arjuna, remembers the deception that had been played on him. He was angered and seeking to fight with the thousand-eyed one, covered the sky with his sharp arrows. On seeing Falguna's wrath, the king of the god unleashed his own blazing missile, and it flashed across the entire sky. Then winds with terrible roars churned all the oceans. Masses of clouds mingled with torrents of rain were created. To counter them, Arjuna unleashed his own supreme weapon. The one who had a knowledge used a mantra to invoke the Vaiveya weapon. In an instant, it destroyed the energy and might of Indra's clouds, rain, and thunder. The clouds dried, the lightning died, and the dark sky was pacified. Cool and pleasant winds began to blow, and the sun's orbit returned to normal. Delighted that there was no opposition any more, and with the many offspring being made, the fire blazed up again and filled the world with its roar. On seeing that the fire was protected by the 2 Krishnas, many feathered beings of the Suparna lineage, including Garuda, rose up into the sky, eager to attack the warriors Krishna and Pandava with their wings, beaks, and claws as through as the Vajra. Many serpents also descended near Pandava, spewing terrible and flaming venom from their mouths. As soon as he saw these sky-dwelling creatures, Partha angrily cut them down with his arrows. Benumbed, their bodies fell into the flaming fire. At that, the gods and the Gandharvas, the Yakshas and the Rakshas and the serpents rose up, uttering loud roar and desiring to fight. They were armed with iron clubs, chakras, and bhushundis with lightning in them. They were intent on killing Krishna and Partha, and their great energy benumbed by their anger. Through they unleashed a fearful shower of weapons. Vibhutsu churned their upper limbs with his sharp arrows. The immensely energetic Krishna, destroyer of enemies, then wrought a great slaughter of Daityas and Danavas with his chakra, pierced by arrow. The immensely energetic Krishna, destroyer of enemies, then wrought a great slaughter of Daityas and Danavas with his chakra, pierced by arrows and struck with his force of a chakra. Many powerful ones were pacified like waves that reach a shore. Then Chakra, the great lord of the 30 gods, was enraged. Riding a white elephant, he charged at them. Grasping lightning, he hurled his Vajra weapon with great force, and the slayer of demons announced to the gods that the two had been killed. On seeing that the king of the gods was about to hurl the great lightning, the gods grasped all their respective weapons. King Yama, his uh, Kaladanta, the Kaldanda, Yama, his Kaldanda, the god of wealth, his Shivika, Varuna, his Pasha, Shiva, his Vichakra, the two Ashwins, Oshundi, Dharta, Dhamu, Jaya, Mushala, the immensely strong Swata mountain, Amisha, his Shakti, and the god of that is Pashvata. Aryaman grasped a fearful Parigha and walked around. Mitra stood there, grasping a chakra that was as sharp as a razor. O Lord of the Earth, Pusha, Bhaga, and Savita grabbed bows and sword and rushed at Krishna and Partha. O Supreme among men, the Rudras, the powerful Marus, the Vivadevas, the Siddhyas resplended in their energy. How many and their other gods, armed with deserved weapons, advanced toward Krishna and Partha in a desire to kill them. O descendant of the birth lineage, in that great battle, wonderful omens were witnessed, equal to those seen when all beings were exterminated and at the end of a yuga. The two Achyutas saw the angry Shakra and his assemble of the other gods. Those fearless and invincible warriors stood there, their bows ready. When they saw the gods advancing from every direction, they angrily repulsed them with arrows and were like the Vajra. Repeatedly, the resolutions of the gods were shattered. In fear, they gave up the battle and sought refuge with Sakra. On seeing the gods repulsed by Madhava and Arjuna, the sages who dwell in heaven were astonished. Sakra was also extremely pleased at witnessing their constant prowess in battle and engaged in fighting them once again. In an attempt to question Sabyasachi's valor, means Partha's valor, the justicer of Paka then cast down a gigantic shower of rocks, but intolerantly Arjuna countered that shower. On seeing that his act was unsuccessful, Shataketu, the king of the gods, increased the strength of his shower, but the son of the Chestesar of Paka brought great pleasure to his father by destroying that shower of rocks with his swift arrows, wishing to kill Pandu's son. Shakra then uprooted with the bare hands a giant peak of Mandara with all its trees and flung it, but Arjuna immensely splintered that peak of the mountain into 1,000 pieces with his swift and straight fire tipped arrows. The sight of that mountain splintering was like that of the sky breaking. With his sun, the moon, and the planets, priest of the giant mountain fell on the forest and killed many beings who lived in Khandava. Vishnupana said, the inhabitants of Khandava was pretended at the fall of the mountain. Danavas, Yakshas, serpents, hyenas, bears, elephants, in rats, tigers, lions, and with manes, deers, buffaloes, hundreds of birds, and other forest dwellers. In great alarm, they and many others being slittered away. They saw the raging fire and the two Krishnas, their weapon ready, and the terrible roar scared them. Janardana let fly his chakra radiant with his own energy, and small creatures, Danavas and Nisacharas, were instantly cut down in hundreds and hurled into the fire, mangled by Krishna's chakra and covered with fat and blood. The Rakshasas then seemed to be like twilight clouds. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, Vrashneya was like destiny, killing pisachas, birds, serpents, and elephants in their thousands. Released from the hands of Krishna, the slayer of enemies, the chakra repeatedly killed many beings and returned to his hands. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, as he went about killing all the beings, the form of he who is the soul of all beings become dreadful. All the assembled gods and Danavas could not vanquish Krishna and Pandava in battle, nor could the gods save the forest with their strength or quench of fire. So they retreated. On seeing how the masses of the gods had been turned away, Shatakratu was extremely pleased and praised Krishna and Pandava. When the gods was repulsed, a Dishambadi's voice spoke to Shatakratu in loud and deep tone. Your friend Takshaka, supreme among serpents, is not here. All the time of Khandava's burning, he had gone to Kurukshetra. O Shakra, listen to my words. You cannot defeat Vasudeva and Arjuna when they are steadfast in battle. They are the gods, Nara and Narayana. Both are incarnation of Vishnu. Okay, friends, famous in heaven, you yourselves know their bravery and their valor. These two supreme among ancient sages are invincible in battle and cannot be conquered in any of the worlds. They deserve the worship of the all gods, Asuras, Yakshas, Rakshas, Gandharvas, humans, Kinnaras, and serpents. O Vashava therefore departs from here with the gods. The destruction of Khandava is destined. Having heard these words and knowing them to be true, the Lord of the immortals gave up his anger and jealousy and returned to heaven. O king, on seeing the great soul Shatakratu leave, all the other dwellers of heaven also departed. When the two warriors Vasudeva and Arjuna saw the king of the gods leave with the other gods, they roared like lions. O king, Krishna and Pandava were delighted that the king of the gods had left. Fearlessly they continued with burning forest, having vanquished the gods the way the wind shattered the clouds. Arjuna used shower of arrows to kill the beings who lived in Khandava. Not a single being could escape from there. They were cut down by Sabyasachi's arrows. Even the greatest of beings could not look upon the invincible Arjuna in battle, not to speak of engaging him in a fight. Like the gods of that himself, he preached one with 100 arrows and 100 with one. And dead, they descended into a flames. They found no refuge along the banks or in the uneven plains or in the abodes of the ancestor and the gods. The heat increased and thousands of herd of beings cried out loudly in pain. Elephants, deers, and birds cried out, and the sound scared those who lived in the Ganga and the ocean. No one dared gaze at the mighty armed Arjuna and the immensely strong Krishna, let alone fighting with them. With his chakra, Hari slew Rakshasas, Danavas, and Nagas, and those who ventured along solitary paths, the heads and trunks slashed with the force of the chakra. The giant bodies fell into the mouth of the blazing fire, aided by the flash, torrents of blood and fat. The flames rose up into the fire, into the sky without a trace of smoke. Agni's eyes blazed, his tongue blazed, and his wide open mouth also blazed. The hair stood up, drinking of the fat of life. The eyes were tawny. The fire fed on the nectar that Krishna and Arjuna had provided and was extremely happy, satiated, and countered. Then Madhusudana saw an asura named Maya suddenly attempting to escape from Takshaka's abode. The fire's charioteer was the wind, and assuming the form of a hermit with matted hair and roaming like clouds, he pursued him with the intention of consuming him. Vasudeva stood with a chakra raised, ready to kill. O descendant of the Bharata lineage, on seeing the raised chakra and the fire ready to consume him, Maya cried out, O Arjuna, save me. Hearing these sacred words, Arjuna replied, Do not be frightened, O descendant of the Bharata lineage. Partha's words seemed to instill new life into Maya. Maya was Namuchi's brother. When Partha told Maya he need not fear Dasharha, no longer desired to kill him, and the fire did not burn him either. In that flaming forest, Agni did not burn six beings, Ashwasena, Maya, and the Sharangas. Friends, next section Sabha Parva. Okay.